Hello, everyone. Good almost afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this Insight Region deep dive. My name is Sari Raskin. I'm the Vice President of Grants and Community Leadership at the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia. Insight Region, which most of you probably know, is our research center that analyzes local data, trends, and then convenes leaders and donors and others, community members, to learn about key issues in our community. It's a growing hub for reliable, well-researched data and analyses on issues critical to Northern Virginians. And the deep dive series is intended to provide additional insights related to our recent report, A Portrait of Northern Virginia's Youth in 2025, that was produced in 2025, and that we featured at our Shape of the Region conference. And the report is now on our website. I know that Amanda just put it on in the chat as well. So this event is this deep dive is a follow-up to this annual event that we had, Shape of the Region. And in this 30-minute session, just a snapshot, we'll provide some of the data that was shared at the event itself. And then we'll go deeper into the topic of food specifically with Emily Lauer-Bader of the Capital Area Food Bank. Welcome, Emily, as well. Today's session will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel afterwards. And please share your questions in the chat box. We'll make notes of them and then we'll share them at the end and facilitate a Q&A. And then now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Denise Bellows to share what we have learned about food insecurity in Northern Virginia and the programs available to youth in our region. Denise.
Thank you, Sari. Hi, and welcome everyone. My name is Denise Bellows. I'm the Senior Director of Insight Region at the Community Foundation. I have a background in behavioral science and health policy, and I've supported evaluations of the SNAP and WIC programs, which provide food to those in need. So today I'll share some of the food-related findings from our recent work exploring children and youth in Northern Virginia. I'm so thankful to be joined today by my colleague, Emily Lauer-Bader. She's the Senior Director of Institutional Partnerships at the Capital Area Food Bank. Emily has been working with the system that provides food to families in Northern Virginia for the past 5 years and has an extensive background in programs supporting children and families. This includes the Summer Meals Program, which supports children during what many families describe as the hungriest time of the year. Emily will share her experience tackling this issue, provide some perspective on the impact of recent economic uncertainty, and share thoughts about the near future. We'll close with some opportunities to support youth in the region. So thank you, Emily, for joining us. So what do we mean when we say food insecurity? So sometimes the terms food insecurity and hunger are used interchangeably, but while anyone can be hungry, people who are food insecure are chronically hungry and don't have the means to change their situation. The official definition by the U.S. Department of Agriculture defines food insecurity as the limited or uncertain availability of nutritionally adequate and safe foods, or limited or uncertain ability to acquire acceptable foods in a socially acceptable way. Now, in recent years, food insecurity has become a greater concern in Northern Virginia. Anyone who's purchased groceries in the past year likely noticed that our bills are increasing along with inflation. Now, while some families can absorb those price increases, other families cannot. And as we shared in our recent report, approximately 1 in 5 families in Northern Virginia did not earn enough money to meet their basic needs for shelter, food, medical care, and other essentials. Specifically, hunger impacts over 23% of families in Northern Virginia. The increased cost of housing has played a role. 70% of food insecure individuals said cost of housing impacted their grocery budget. And this aligns with the fact that home prices in this region are 28% above the national median. We've already seen young adults and families moving out of this area to places with more affordable housing and a lower cost of living. So what do we know about food insecurity in Northern Virginia? We know that Northern Virginia has pockets of poverty. However, hunger exists in every zip code in the region. And you can see this. This is the hunger food heat map for Northern Virginia by the Capital Area Food Bank. It shows where food insecurity is the most prevalent in Northern Virginia. So who In our areas experiencing food insecurity, while employment hardship is a contributing factor, in our region, most people reporting hunger are actually employed, and 60% have a college education. Surprisingly, the biggest increase in food insecurity has been among those you may not expect, families earning between $100,000 and $150,000 a year. These are middle income households that are usually considered to be financially stable. These families are in an even more compromising position because government food assistance programs like SNAP, also known as the Food Stamp Program, and TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program, they're only available to those earning much less, typically under 185% of the federal poverty line. In places like Northern Virginia, where the cost of living is among the highest in the nation, many newly struggling families earn between 340% and 40% of that poverty line. So that means they make too much money to qualify for help, but not enough to afford basic needs like groceries. So this leaves many families in a tough spot. And it's not just happening in Northern Virginia. This trend is showing up across the country. In April, the National School Lunch Program shared something unexpected. While most free school meals still go to students from low income families, more and more are now being served to kids from middle and even higher income households. This shift suggests that families who once didn't need help are now struggling to afford basics like school lunches. It's a sign that food insecurity is reaching deeper into the middle class than ever before. So, I've shared what we know more generally about food insecurity in our region, but now let's focus on our children. The experts agree what kids eat plays a huge role in how they grow, learn, and feel. Some even say it is the most important factor in a child's development. This is supported by extensive research in nutritional science and developmental psychology. But you don't have to read the scientific journals to understand how hunger affects children. We've all probably experienced the feeling of being hangry at some point in time. It's that irritable, grumpy, or tired feeling when we miss a meal. Now imagine feeling like that every single day. Then imagine being asked to sit still, pay attention, take a challenging exam or test. For many children, this isn't just one bad day that I missed a meal, it's every day of their life. So when children don't have reliable access to nutritious, safe foods, it's hard for them to focus, behave, or perform to the best of their ability. They're more likely to experience anxiety, illness, nutrient deficiency, and struggle with controlling their behavior. So at Insight Region, we use data to spark change and help everyone in Northern Virginia build a better future. We believe everyone deserves a fair shot at success. And one of the most basic building blocks of a better life is having enough healthy food to eat. When a child goes to school hungry, it's harder to learn. When a parent skips a meal to feed their family, it's harder to get ahead. That's why food access is at the heart of our work to build a stronger Northern Virginia. And as a reminder, our recent report on youth in Northern Virginia found that after a decade of steady decline in hunger, the number of youth experiencing food insecurity increased by 28% from 2023 to 2024. And more than 27,000 children in our region reported food insecurity just last year. Finally, the Fairfax County Youth Survey for 2024 found that even our high school students are reporting hunger. Now, since the release of this report, we actually surveyed our local nonprofits about the impact of recent federal changes occurring between January and March 2025 this year. Emily will elaborate a little bit more on what's been happening recently, but one key concern that we found is that ending the local food purchase agreement will stop local produce from reaching food banks and the people who need that food. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Emily to share a little bit more about what she has observed over the past few months and what the Capital Area Food Bank is anticipating over the course of the next year. Over to you, Emily.
Thanks, Denise. I am delighted to be here with you all today. So just to start, I want to talk a little bit before we get into summer meals specifically. I want to talk a little bit about what's impacting the food bank and our clients right now. And actually, I realized I did this slide, but I'm going to switch up the order of it because I want to talk about what's affecting our neighbors throughout the region right now, right? As Denise noted, we've seen food insecurity increase that has been across the board. Certainly, you know, it's no surprise to anyone that it increased during the pandemic. But I think what does surprise many people is that it hasn't significantly gone down, and we've continued to see it increase. Um, uh, you know, why is that? It's not, honestly, it's not that hard to understand. The reality is, like, food prices have not gone down. If you've been to the grocery store lately, you know your grocery bill, regardless of where you shop, is higher than it used to be. Inflation, we've not seen measurable changes in inflation. Um, that just means that there may be more people who are having trouble paying their bills and are in need. For many of the clients that the food bank serves, they are also still recovering economically from the pandemic. For those of us who've already recovered, or maybe it didn't hit us economically in the same way, that's hard to imagine. But you have to remember, for a lot of people, they had hours cut, they lost jobs, and they might have already been behind, right? So it's not just it's not just like covering 1 month spills or something like that. A lot of them, it's taken them a very, very long time to catch up. And we are once again seeing those things happen, right? Um, uh, we all live in this region. We know that reductions in force have begun among the federal government. For some people, they've already lost their jobs. For others, they are either maybe being paid through September, or they're waiting to hear about what's going to happen with their jobs. So we anticipate that there will be an increase in need because of that. But I think it's also important to note that when we think about potential reasons for an increase in food insecurity, it's not just because people have lost their jobs. There are downstream impacts of that, right? People are tightening their spending, whether they've lost their jobs or not. That means that other people are seeing hours lost. We've been hosting pop-up markets throughout the region over the past couple of months. And, you know, while we've talked to some people who've lost their jobs directly because of changes in the federal government, we've also talked to people who perhaps one recent market I was at, I talked to two women who were providing childcare. Well, their employers don't need them anymore because they don't have jobs, or they've just had to significantly cut back, right? So their hours have been cut back. We've talked to people who are doing one market. We saw a lot of folks who actually said that they're construction workers and they've seen their hours cut. We talked to a barber who said he's seeing people come in less, right, to get their hair cut, because again, they're just thinking about how what their budget looks like and what happens if they were to lose their jobs, things like that. You know, a lot of those things we don't think about every day, but impact the clients that the food bank already serves. So when we think about what the future looks like and how food insecurity might change, might increase, we're thinking about two things. We're thinking about, one, people who might be in need of our services who never have been before, and then two, people who maybe previously they needed food assistance every couple of weeks, you know, once a month, couple of times a year, but now they need food more often. So that's really those are the things that are directly affecting our neighbors in need, right? The other thing is that Denise mentioned the local food purchase agreement program. There are changes to programs at the federal government level that are affecting food banks around the country, the capital area food bank included. So the local food purchase agreement was a program that got money to food banks, got money to local school districts, that made it possible for us to purchase from local farmers. This was hugely helpful in a multitude of ways. One, you know, more fresh produce closer by. We're supporting local farmers, right? And so supporting our local regional economy, help diversify our supply chain. If we all remember back to the beginning of the pandemic when it was hard to get things, right, that also affected us. And so diversification of our supply chain is extraordinarily important. So for the capital area food bank, we are going to continue to purchase from local farmers. That's really important to us, but we won't obviously be able to purchase at the same level. The second thing, this has gotten a lot of news in the past couple of months. Under the previous administration, the USDA's Emergency Food Assistance Program, it sometimes gets referred to as TFAP, they found an additional funding mechanism to increase food that goes to food banks. That additional funding mechanism has since been put under review, which means that almost all the food banks have seen canceled orders of food. So for the Capital Area Food Bank, between the end of March and the end of June, we were expecting 55 truckloads of food through the TFAP program. We've had about 28 truckloads canceled. So that is the equivalent of more than 600,000 meals of food. So that's something that we're dealing with right now. And then I think the last thing that I would say is, or actually two things, excuse me. One is that some of the programs that we've been doing that are more forward-looking, right? Things may change. Things like our food pharmacies that we've been working in partnership with local healthcare institutions. That may change as food gets more expensive. If we enter a scenario where people lose health insurance, they may not be coming in and accessing the food pharmacy, things like that. And then just the last thing I would say is that people sometimes don't realize the food bank, we distribute a lot of food. And so in order to do that, we do have to purchase some food. So while we purchase at wholesale prices, we are part of the Feeding America network. And so there is a purchase program within that. Even at wholesale prices, food is more expensive, right? We are grappling with that like everyone else. There are, depending upon how tariffs might affect certain foods, that will affect us as well. So that's sort of broad background. And now going into the summer meals program, which I'm a fundraiser by training now, but my educational background is actually in education. So I love the summer meals program. So for those of you who don't know, the USDA runs the Summer Food Service Program. And what that is it's a program that makes funding available to provide food to children, prepared meals and snacks over the summer. It reimburses for the costs of food. So the Capital Area Food Bank applies to the USDA via our local state agencies. We get approved to be part of the program. We work with about 50 different organizations throughout the region to actually implement the program. And we're working with sites such as churches, recreation centers, boys and girls clubs, any kind of place that offers a sort of a safe space for children where they also have the ability to serve food during the summer. And so the way it works is that each site is eligible to receive up to 2 meal types a day. Those could be hot and cold lunches, breakfasts, or snacks. We, as the Capital Area Food Bank, work with a vendor because these are prepared meals, right? These are kids we're talking about, so we can't just hand them a bag of groceries. These are prepared meals. So we have vendors who actually prepare the meals. There's a whole menu of options. We offer vegetarian and vegan options. There are non-dairy items provided as needed, since we know that a lot of kids have a variety of issues. And our team, I actually asked our team what some of our most popular menu items are. And they told me breakfast for dinner, not surprising. I also love breakfast for dinner. They have a build your own pizza meal that obviously kids also love pizza, as we know. So those are just some examples. So we work with these sites to make sure that they have the ability to, the space to serve meals. We obviously need to make sure that there's food safety issues. We provide lots of different flyers and things like that for them to advertise their summer meal sites. And most of these are brick and mortar locations. One thing that I want to call out, and it's in the picture here, is that Capital Area Food Bank runs what we call our mobile meals bus in Virginia. We do this as part of the summer meals program. We also run it actually year round, so during the school year as well. And it's a little bit hard to see in this picture, but we actually have a retrofitted school bus where we serve kids meals right off the back of the bus. This particular picture is from an event we did last year, but we've got tables and chairs that we can put out. We have our site coordinator, Sophia, has activities that to do with the kids as they're eating. And so a lot of kids, we've got select locations that the bus goes to. And so the kids know to be on the lookout for the bus, right? They get to eat, they get to do activities with our team. And so the bus has been really a great way to just reach kids and make sure that they are getting the meals that they need, but really also in a fun way. So we know that a lot of kids are really excited about the bus. Just to give you a sense of sort of impact, I mentioned, we work with about 50 sites throughout our service area. Last year, we provided more than 57,000 meals. So that includes breakfast, lunches, suppers, and snacks to kids through the summer meals program. We are anticipating an increase this year, just based on the fact that we believe that food insecurity is going to go up. But obviously, school has just ended, so we're about to start the summer meals program, and we'll see. So that's kind of the overview of our summer meals program.
Thank you. Thank you both Denise and Emily. And first of all, I'll make some comments, but if anyone has any questions for either Denise or Emily, please put them in the chat as your moment to ask questions of things that you've heard, or maybe some questions that you may have about food and children. Emily, it's just so great to partner with the Capital Area Food Bank because I feel like, first of all, you have a pulse of what's happening in the region with kids at this moment, also during the summer moment, which and so the changes in the world, but also with kids today. So thank you for the overview of the summer program as well. There's one question already. Is there a way to support the summer meals program?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it leads into my very first bullet point. As I said, I am a fundraiser, so that means if I don't suggest that people donate to support food banks, food pantries, etc., I would be, I would probably be in trouble. But so I think one thing that's really important to note is that the summer meals program, as I said, through the USDA and through the state agencies that implement the program, the cost of the food is covered. But that is obviously never the cost of running a program, right? Like that is literally just the food that gets served to kids. So we have other donors who come in and help us with things like staffing, et cetera, which are extraordinarily important in running these programs. And so I always tell people, donating to the food banks is really important.
So,
Donating
so I have a
to your
question.
local food pantry
Yes,
is really
so
important.
that's what I was going to ask you. Can you
Yep.
distinguish for a moment between food bank, food pantry, and then organizations that are providing food services?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great question because not everyone is in our world. So, to give you a little Charitable Food Assistance Network 101. So, there's about 200 food banks across the country that are part of the Feeding America network. We are all our own 501(c)(3s, but we are part of this network of food banks. The food banks are generally the folks who have warehouses of food, which is my screen, my virtual background. I'm not actually sitting in the warehouse. We then we do some direct distribution ourselves. So the mobile meals bus is an example of that. But we also work with a network of about 400 community organizations throughout the region. And that's really important because we have a lot of people who need assistance. And as big as the food bank is and the work we do, there's no way that we can begin to reach them all just with our staff, particularly given how diverse our region is. And so that's really important that we have a network of organizations that work with us. Specifically for the summer meals program, some of those organizations may also run food pantries, but in this case, for summer meals, they have specific programs to reach kids. And a food pantry is generally, just for reference, when somebody can go and get canned goods, produce, etc. It's open for specific hours. You can often find them in faith institutions, etc. But
Great.
that's not the only folks who run them.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
two last questions, I think. So one, does your summer meals program extend into Loudoun County?
So ours does not, because fun food bank things, Loudoun County is covered by a different food bank, but they do also, all the food banks have summer meals. And so they are covered by a different food bank. But you can find more, you can always find information on food banks through the Feeding America website for your local food bank.
Great. Great. And then if someone is dealing with food security at this moment, insecurity at this moment, how can I help them right away?
Yeah, that is a really great and really important question, because sometimes people are dealing with it. They don't want to admit it. There's a stigma to asking for help around food insecurity. But I think most importantly, the first step is to tell them to reach out to the Capital Area Food Bank. So on our website, there is a button that says Find Help, and you can type in your zip code. Denise just pulled up the map. This is an example of all of our different partner agencies throughout the region. So that is uh, some of our school meal sites, some of our summer meal sites, etc. If folks are not tech savvy, which we know that happens sometimes, they can also call us. We have what's called our hunger helpline, and they can call us, and our team can actually, they utilize this map as well and can look up the areas that are closest to them, give them information over the phone, text them, as we all know. Sometimes even if you're not tech savvy, texting works. And so they can always call us and we can help them find a place to find food.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much. If there are any other questions, this is your moment to add them to the chat. If not, just a reminder, this was recorded, this session, so you can watch it at a later date. And if there are any questions that come up, please feel free to reach out to either Emily or Denise. And then I just want to give people a preview to, first of all, there's information about our newest grantees. Amanda may put in the site in the chat. Also, it's on our website, but I wanted to mention that our 2025 grantees have been awarded. And I also wanted to quickly mention that our nonprofit report is about to come out. So stay in touch with us and you will receive hopefully communication about that in the very near future. So with that, there are no other questions, I don't think, but I wanted to thank both Denise and Emily for a really thoughtful deep dive. Again, a snapshot about a really important issue about food insecurity, and also the fact that it's very relevant to what's happening as the beginning of the summer, the end of the school year, and beginning of summer is for kids and how they're going to get access to food at this critical moment. So thank you so much for everything, and have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us.